All right. Well, that beginning didn't go as it was supposed to go. And last week when I did this, I found out that I was giving my intro here and there was nothing but a blank blue screen. So hopefully if you are watching, you are actually seeing me today, and even though the intro piece didn't play through the way it's supposed to. So I'm glad to see you today. Thank you for joining me. And I have such a fun guest today. Can't wait to bring him on. But before I do, I want to let you know I have a new gift for you. So those of you that sign up to become a Klein and Company Insider on my website, you see it going across the scroll here on the bottom, you'll get a pop-up. Just put your name and email address in, and you will get a new sample luxury itinerary right away. It's a surprise as to where it's from. And then every quarter thereafter, you'll get a new one. So take care of that bit of business, and also ask questions today, please. We'd love to have you ask some questions, and Alex will be happy to answer them for you. So one other thing is stay until the end so that you can find out what the extras are for you, which are really good this week. Or if you can't stay till the end, be sure to watch the replay so that you can take advantage of those. So I'm Robin Klein, of course, of Klein and Company Travel Consulting, and I am ready to welcome on Alex McNeil of Quark Expeditions. Hey, Alex.
Hello, Robin. Great to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Good to see you. And as I said, I am so excited about today's conversation because we are going to talk about Greenland, not a place that most people would ever have on their radar to go for well, maybe we wouldn't call this a vacation, but an expedition is definitely an expedition. You know, it just depends on your definition of vacation, I guess. But I think it looks fantastic, and I'm really excited to hear about it. And you're going to tell us a bit about what it takes to get a trip like this. I shouldn't even call it a trip. It's so much more than a trip. To get an adventure like this on the books with a company like Quark, and this has been your baby. Like, you started this, everything about it. Yes?
It has, yeah. I'd probably say that the correct way to define a trip to Greenland is a transformative travel experience. You know, 15 years ago, I'd never thought about Greenland when I came into this industry, and it's changed my life. The people that I've met, the things that I've seen. And so, yeah, a few years ago, we started thinking about this new program, and in my role as Director of Expedition Innovation, we brought it to life, and I'm excited to share that journey with you guys.
Oh, I can't wait too. So, well, and tell us a little bit, before we even go into your role with Quark and a little bit about Quark, just tell us a little bit about yourself, like why, how'd you get to what you're doing now? You know, you're in Canada. We'll start with that. We'll forgive you because you share your weather with us sometimes down here, and we don't love that. But
yeah, very sorry about that. So, as you said, my name's Alex McNeil, and I work with Quark. I've been at the company for almost 15 years now, and I was born in England. I've lived in Australia. I've done a lot of business in Russia and Argentina. Kind of traveled the world, and I've always been a bit of a wayward soul. I went to boarding school when I was young, had a short stint in university, and then started a kind of a career in travel and exploration. My first travel job was as a surf guide in Panama, which was kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And then I moved on and started actually a maintenance and development company in Canada, and was recruited at a very young age. As you can see, I'm still, I celebrated my 35th birthday. So I started working for Quark when I was in my early 20s.
Wow.
And haven't looked back since.
Wow. Well, in our call getting ready for today, we didn't talk about some of those things, and so we've got a lot more to talk about. We're gonna have to do this again, I can tell already. So okay, so tell us about your role at Quark, what you're doing now, your capacity now, and then just a little brief thing on Quark, and then we'll launch into Greenland.
Sure. Yeah. So I spent the first 10 years of my time with Quark as a field guide, so expedition leader, lecturer. I specialized in polar history and with a particular, focus on the history of Russian exploration in the Soviet Union. And then I took that experience. Over the course of that period, I spent almost 2,000 days in the field, exploring every corner of the Arctic and a large swath of the Antarctic continent. And just everywhere I went when I was expedition leading, I thought of the ways that we can make the experience better for the people who are traveling with us. I mean, these trips are a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I just took it upon myself. I said, I'm going to make sure that they get every penny worth of the money that they've spent to come with us and put our trust in us. So I'm currently the director of innovation, let's call it, and my job is to dream up new trips. So
gosh, that sounds like heaven to me.
Yeah, so I have the kind of the weight of the company behind me to dream up these new ideas. And Quark's the leader in polar adventures. We've been around for 30 years. We started in 1991 with one ship, which happened to go to the North Pole for the first time in history. And since then, we've just really been focusing on doing different things and making sure we make the most of the experiences that our guests share with us on our voyages.
Right. So you guys really are the leaders in this area. I mean, I know there's plenty of companies that do it, but you guys are like the original. You're the
we are. Yeah, we're one of the
trailblazers.
We're one of the few companies that focuses on the Arctic and Antarctica. There's a lot of expedition cruise companies who have global operations, and for parts of their year, they'll send a ship or two down to these areas or up to the Arctic. And that's our focus. That's our bread and butter. That's all we do. So when people are thinking about traveling to the polar regions, experience counts, and we've got it in buckets.
Yeah, if I'm going someplace polar, I'm going with you guys because I want to go with the experienced ones. Okay. All right. Well, here I'm going to put this first slide up, and I am going.
Perfect. This is a map of the Arctic, as you all can see. And this is actually showing the profile of Quark's operations in 2021 and 2022. And what we're going to talk about today is the little gold square in the bottom, at the southern coast of Greenland. And this is an incredible destination that is relatively unknown. One of the things that you'll notice as we go into this is just the immensity of the landscapes here and the interplay with the people that are there. I've been lucky enough to go on all of these Quark voyages, been to all these routes, and this place, for the reasons I'm going to share with you, has a special place in my heart, and I'm really excited to be talking about it today. So you can go to the next slide. And so we had this idea about two years ago, I'd say, and I'd sailed to South Greenland on a few occasions, and it's just this labyrinth of fjords. And people travel all over the world to go to fjords. There's Alaska, the coast of Norway, the most popular, but South Greenland was unlike anything that I'd ever experienced. And most expedition cruise voyages just touch the surface. I mean, some of these fjords go 70 kilometers inland, and you have all of these great features. You have culture, you have landscapes, you've got ice, you've got wildlife, and we'll talk all about that. But the thing that stuck out to me most about all of my time in Greenland is the people. And so from the beginning, we wanted to work with local people to build the best experience possible, because nobody knows a destination better than the people who live there, the people who've grown up there and have deep roots and a personal connection to whatever location that is. So from the beginning, we wanted to involve local people and to bring this idea to life. This was our team. So in August last year, we went to South Greenland to explore and kind of walk in the footsteps of our future travelers. And so that was me, my colleague Andrea, who's from Austria, our friend Hugo is from France, and then our local partners, Sarah, who's kind of a destination manager in South Greenland, Carlo, who's from Nuuk, Greenland, Kimmernak, who's one of Greenland's most renowned glacier guides. I mean, most glacier guides in Greenland come from outside of Greenland, and so she's one of the first to have been fully trained and certified. It was such a pleasure working with her. And then in the bottom right is Salik Fredrickson, grew up on a sheep farm in South Greenland and just has South Greenland running through his bones. It was great to work with them all. Let's go to the next slide. Or photo. We're not doing slides here. It was it was interesting to travel. I mean, I don't know how many people who are on the call here have been traveling in the last little while. Robin, I know you just got back from Kenya, which sounds fantastic, and I think travel's got a little bit more complicated, but it's so much more rewarding when you're able to get out. So um, I'll show you a few pictures of the trip that we had. I'm still on the people slide there, Robin. But
Hang on.
okay.
Hang on one. Yeah, hang on 1 second. Just because I think maybe when I was off the screen, you couldn't hear me. So were you not able to hear me when I was
No, I
talking?
couldn't. I can hear you now, though.
Okay, all right. Well, I must have done something. Oh, I know what I did. It was me. I made a mistake. Okay, so let me ask you this, and then I'll go on to the next slide. So the people there, I read a bit about their Inuit. Is that right? Mostly the natives, or
No, the
not?
Inuit. Yeah. The Inuit. Yeah, the Greenlandic Inuit. So you've got three kind of predominant indigenous groups in the Arctic: the Chukchi, and the Russian indigenous peoples. You've got the Canadian Inuit, and then the Greenlandic Inuit. So yeah, everyone that we were working with and continue to work with, they're partners through and through, from beginning until we take people on the voyages. Our Greenlandic Inuit.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, now I'm going to try again here, and when we get to the next slide, I'm going to ask you a question to make sure that I'm still on the. Okay, let's see. We got now. Give me 1 second. Can you still hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. I think we might have it. Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, this is a great photo. I mean, one of the things that strikes me most about Greenland is how hospitable the local people are. And so, for me, having spent 10 years traveling to Greenland, I've always wanted to engage the local communities more. So that was kind of at the core of developing this trip. It's from the beginning. We went to the local government, we went to the local people, and we said we want to work with you. And a few years ago, Talib Rafi, who is the Secretary General of the UN Tourism Council, said that there's no future in travel and tourism if you're not welcome and embraced by the local community. So we've now become the first expedition company to develop a program, these Greenland Adventure voyages, in full partnership with the local people.
God, that's great. That is important too.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously you have been back to Greenland since the nasty virus hit.
Yeah, this is Hugo and I in Reykjavik. I've been to Reykjavik 10 or 20 times, and I've never seen the airport like this. It was abandoned.
Wow. Wow.
So there we are, keeping our distance, and
Yeah.
the ardors of travel made our arrival that much more exciting. I remember flying from Reykjavik, and you can see the Greenland ice sheet as you're traveling to South Greenland, and this is kind of what we're welcomed to. This is Lindenow Fjord on the east coast of South Greenland.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so South Greenland is a really dynamic destination. It's combined of farmland like this. One of the primary economic features is sheep farming, and they have a small kind of vegetable or agricultural side. So you've got these lowlands, and then if you go to the next photo, right around the corner, you just have this dramatic change to these really steep kind of alpine areas with the Greenland ice sheet streaming down with glaciers to the sea.
Explain to me when you say the Greenland ice sheet. Tell me exactly what that means for somebody that's doesn't get it.
so the Greenland ice sheet is the second largest mass of ice in the world. The only one that's bigger is the Antarctic ice sheet. And so it's this huge body of ice that compromises, off the top of my head, 95% of the land mass of Greenland. And so what you get is that these glaciers are all streaming down from the elevation of the ice sheet to the sea. So it's a fantastic feature of the scenery in Greenland.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah. And so here's an example of it, and glaciers, I don't know how many people on the call have spent time near glaciers or around glaciers, but to me, they're just the most incredible natural forms. I mean, they're alive. They're so massive, but you hear them cracking, they're moving, they're birthing or calving these incredible ice sculptures and icebergs and the small pieces that drift around. It's just something to admire, and something that South Greenland really has in spades.
Wow. And I want to encourage people that are watching to go ahead and type questions in because, like you said, how many people would know some of this stuff? Certainly not me. So, okay. Now this picture, I love this picture because it, obviously it makes everybody look like they're sitting on this whale's tail here. But
yeah, I can assure you they're a safe distance away.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us what's really happening.
Yeah. So this was actually a picture from a few years ago. And the reason I included it was that just to highlight that there's some incredible wildlife in South Greenland as well, particularly the whales. This is a humpback whale. So as part of this Greenland Adventure experience, we do hope to provide the opportunity for people to go kind of whale watching, really. I mean, the people aren't sitting on the whale's tail. I've never actually looked at the picture like that. But it does look funny. But they're safely behind, maybe 10, 20 meters in a Zodiac, a small inflatable boat which can take up to 10 people, which is kind of the core of all of our standard operations. We've got a fleet of 20 of them on board, so everyone can go out at the same time. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the other features of the vessel later in the show.
Okay. Here we go. All right.
Yeah, so this is another really cool part about South Greenland, which is it's home to the best preserved Norse ruins in the New World. And because of these lowlands, these kind of arable or farmable parts of South Greenland, the Vikings settled here when they migrated from Europe to Iceland originally, and then some of the really bad ones were banished to Greenland. And so names like Leif Erikson or Leif the Lucky and Eric the Red settled here. And this is Falsey Church. It's a church that was the last recorded event was in the 1400s.
Wow.
But it's really magnificent to see these Viking ruins.
So you've got some opportunity for some history as well while you're at it. Nice.
Yeah, one of our partners there, Alabak, he had a great story. He goes that he said that the Vikings that migrated to Iceland, they were expelled from Europe because they were kind of too badass, and then the Vikings in Iceland, they were expelled from Iceland. They went to Greenland because they were a little bit badass, and then he goes, and the Greenlandic Inuit, we killed those Vikings.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So this is our ship. This is our ship. It's ultramarine. It's our new expedition vessel. After 30 years, we've invested in building our own ship and just put all those years of experience into its design. So one of the main features that's going to be a big component of this program is the 2 onboard helicopters. These are Airbus H-145 helicopters, state of the art in everything from guest experience to safety to the environmental side. They're the quietest helicopters in their class, and are just going to be an amazing resource for exploration.
Well, I can tell you, I have only been on one helicopter expedition, and it was recently, and it was so amazing. I'm I'm dying to get back in a helicopter again. Absolutely dying to do it. And so that is really exciting.
Yeah, and we've got a bunch, as part of the package here, helicopter excursions are included. So
they're included.
Something that everyone will get the opportunity to participate in. And yeah, it's an incredible experience, just that feeling of weightlessness as you lift off, especially off a ship.
Yeah.
And everywhere that we go with them, it's going to be almost like going for the first time. This isn't a standard helicopter tour of Niagara Falls where it's just kind of rotating. We're always going to be in a different location. We're always going to be doing a different thing. And so you get that real sense of exploration.
Now, when you're doing the helicopter trips off the ship, do they land and can you get out at all? Or do you just, I shouldn't say, do you just get to see the view? Or is it something that it's all airtime when you do it?
Yeah, no, we'll be landing. So the 2 included helicopter excursions are heli hiking, where you'll go and be able to explore kind of the high alpine areas on a hike with a guide, and also landing on the Greenland Ice Sheet. So being able to step foot on the ice sheet itself, which is going to be super exciting.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, there. If I just advanced the slide, I would have answered my own question. So look at that. Look at that.
So this is an example. This is us this past August in 2020. and we're working with a local helicopter company, Ceramic, because our ship wasn't ready yet. But and we went around with our pilot Pilu, and he showed us all these great spots, and we're scouting areas that we'll want to go, this year and next year as these voyages come to life. And so here's an example of one of the ways we might use the helicopter. It's a great viewpoint, and you can see the ice sheet there streaming down into the ocean.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Yeah. Another ice sheet and helicopter picture. Wow.
Another one.
Gosh, it looks beautiful. Oh.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to say is just how these places make you feel. We've all had a very strange past 12 months. And for me, going into the wilderness, going into these incredibly, beautiful natural environments are really healing, They reconnect you with the planet. And I think that once we are able to start traveling again more routinely, a trip like this can just really reset us. And, it's a breath of fresh air, and it's a way to reconnect with ourselves and our planet in a way that many other travel opportunities don't necessarily provide.
Absolutely. Yep. Another one. Golly, that's just breathtaking.
Yeah, so this was a really cool destination. So the helicopters provide access to places that you would never otherwise get. We're the one of the few actually expedition companies who offer helicopter excursions, and most of the fleet, 99% of the fleet, you're limited to the shoreline. And so we'll be able to have people deployed. I mean, our heli hiking groups will take up to 50 people, which is 1/4 of the ship's capacity. Heli hiking, while others will be able to go kayaking or Zodiac cruising, or on our shore excursion hikes, which is our Zodiacs take people ashore. So every activity that's happening will be in small groups because everyone's so spread out. But here's an example of another site that we found, which is very accessible, and it's almost like Lord of the Rings. You're just standing there with these monuments of nature.
Absolutely awe-inspiring. And look at that.
Yeah, that's actually me. That's me dressed up as a Quark guest, and as you've seen a few of those jackets off in the distance. So you might think you're going to a polar destination. What's the weather like? It can get a bit cold. It's not South Greenland compared to some other destinations like the North Pole or the Antarctic Peninsula is not as cold. So it's quite a temperate environment, but we do provide these jackets. Every guest gets one when they come on board. We also provide special boots, neoprene boots, muck boots actually, as part of the inclusions of the packages. So,
well, and that's a pretty big deal because packing, you don't want. I mean, that's a lot of stuff to pack around. And the other thing is if you end up, you kind of sometimes get this packing list, and it's like, oh my gosh, have I got the right thing? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be warm enough? Am I going to be too warm? Whatever. So this way, you guys take care of all of that. You arrive, and the stuff is there for you, and so you're going to be safely at the right temperature.
yeah, exactly. So you can relax and enjoy the experience.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and for somebody like me who's always cold, that would be really important. So look at this. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
wow.
This is the Greenland Ice Sheet. So this is one of the excursions that's included. So everyone will have the opportunity to fly up, land by helicopter on the ice sheet, and just be kind of overwhelmed by the immensity of this ice mass. And education is also a big part of our trip. So we'll have glaciologists who are part of your adventure. Will be there to interpret the features, but also interpret the bigger picture. People have been talking about the Greenland ice sheet's role in our changing environment, and so to actually be there, to actually experience it, to see it, will really bring those themes to life.
Gosh, that's amazing! Look at that. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so here we've got some green. We've got some green in Greenland now.
Yeah, this is a really cool part of this trip. So we've got this really diverse kind of base package, and if there's people who want to kind of take their adventure to the next level, we partnered with this local group called Tasimute Camp, and this is their camp. It's like a safari in the Arctic, and so they've got a few small two-person tents. I mean, I say small; they're probably the biggest tent that I've ever been in. They're let's say 10 feet by 10 feet. Super comfortable, and people can choose to sign up for this activity and go and spend a night at this camp.
Nice.
While
Very
on the
nice.
voyage. Yeah, great. And the hosts, so Salik, who I showed earlier, him and his team are the hosts here, and not only is it a really cool experience, but it's also focused a lot on local storytelling and food.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. I
so
like that.
you
Like,
can walk around and harvest berries and other ingredients. I mean, there's fishing in the lake nearby, and this is actually one of the meals that we had at the camp.
yeah, yeah.
And we thought this isn't camping. This is not the camping that I'm used to.
Right, right, exactly. Well, it's nice to be able to do it in that kind of way, though. But it's still a true to life experience, though, when you're doing the harvesting and the fishing and the everything else. So that's,
Exactly. It's
yeah.
actually in the 15 years that I've been working in the polar regions, that experience, just being at that camp, was one of the highlights, if not the pinnacle. I mean, I just felt so connected to the people there, and the food was a whole other dimension, which was great.
It's all about the experience, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is the community of Pilatok, which is
Mhm.
a small community. It's only a few hundred residents, and it's one of the communities that we hope to visit. And being able to visit a community like this is a really cool part of the experiences that you would have on the Greenland Adventure trip. So going to the community, they're extremely welcoming. As I was saying in the beginning, Greenland is just one of the most welcoming countries, and that people have such a rich culture, really
Yeah.
forged in these extreme environments.
Uh-huh.
And so visiting a Pilatok is one of the experiences we hope to incorporate into our voyage.
Well, it took me a minute to even see that it was a community down
Yeah.
there because of, you see this beautiful landscape and all of that, and then it's like, oh wow, there are houses down there. So yeah,
Yeah, and it's very
crazy.
much still a hunting and fishing society.
Okay.
So this is us in August visiting a Pilatok. They were really happy. Many companies who do these types of trips will, they might call in advance or send an email, but this was the first time in their experience that a company had come before we actually brought guests. So we came and we met his Timo, one of the local leaders, and he walked us around. We were meeting everyone, and even you have to remember this was COVID times, and so we were a bit apprehensive about how we would be received. I mean, we had multiple tests. We quarantined for 2 weeks. We were good to go as far as taking all the precautions that we could. But even in that, we thought, the community seeing outsiders might be a little bit hesitant, but
Mhm.
people came out of their homes and they were welcoming us and singing to us. And I think they were just so pleased to see, tourists again, but also to see the interest that we had as a company to come and visit them and plan for our guest operations in the future.
Wow, that's great. And you don't want to be the person. I mean, I know having just been someplace for a while, you don't want to be the guy that brings it to them either.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
exactly.
being careful with all the quarantining and everything is really important. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's actually a good point you bring up, because we've just invested heavily in our COVID safe strategy, and so
Hmm.
we're not gonna restart our operations until it's safe to do so, until the pandemic globally is at a level where borders are opening up and it's responsible to start our operations again. But even beyond that, we've invested in certain precautions, like we'll have onboard testing, a very high end PCR test, which is not an insignificant investment. So we'll be making sure our guests are safe, our team are safe, but also the communities that we visit, if it is responsible to visit them, will have that added layer of safety.
Yeah, it's so important. Absolutely. Well, oh my gosh, that was our last slide, and that kind of makes me sad. Um,
Yeah,
so, but I have that video, and I would like to play that here. If you will
do it.
just give me a second to make sure I've got it loaded properly. And yeah, let's give me a second.
No worries.
If
Do
I
you
can
want me,
find
do you want me to do a quick? You want me to do a
that.
quick intro?
Yeah, 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 do that. And I'm gonna again go away and get this up on the screen. And then when you're ready, tell me to start it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
So hope everyone enjoys this short video. This was made by Hugo, who is our videographer for the trip. I think really captures the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish, from introducing the destination, introducing the team, the philosophy behind the trip, around community engagement and leveraging that kind of local expertise. And you know probably more than all those things is just beautiful imagery, and I think really does a great job of bringing this experience to life. So hope you enjoy.
coming here in South Greenland embodies that spirit of evolution that's driven Quark expeditions since the first days of our explorations. 30 years ago, Lars Vikander and Mike McDowell led the first passenger expedition to the North Pole. That was the beginning of a huge history of exploration that had many chapters and constant evolution from that initial spirit that drove us beyond where anyone had previously thought going to today. It's that spirit, that constant evolution, that constant drive to reinvent ourselves, to do things better, to look for new opportunities, new destinations, new partners, and that's what has made us the leader in polar adventures. The Greenland Adventure, explored by land, sea, and air, is the embodiment of that spirit. Meeting some of our local partners in person for the first time after a year of collaborating remotely was an incredible experience. Our team for this project included Andrea Majestic, a seasoned expedition guide, Hugo Perrin, a fantastic videographer, Carlo Lucasen from Nuuk, our photographer, Kimmernak Heilman, one of Greenland's best-known glacier guides, Salik Fredriksson, the co-owner of Tasimute Camp, Sarah Woodall, who's in charge of Innovation South Greenland, the tourism destination management company here, and many more incredible local partners.
Sustainability is a bit of a buzzword, and we've always thought about it in an environmental perspective. But now, especially with this project with Quark Expeditions, we're thinking about sustainability in the social perspective, and that's really important. How are the local people involved? How do the local people react to tourism? And I'm really glad that we're setting a focus on that element of sustainability now.
It's the first time I've experienced that there's actually a large operation using time, figuring out what to do before they come here. Working with us locals, they've shown that they want to give back to the place they go to.
When traveling to a destination like this, local knowledge is more important than anything else. To come here and learn from the people who've lived here and to involve them as much as possible.
If you make a product where locals that you visit benefit from it, you also create stronger bonds between the guests and the host.
Spent many hours poring over charts, satellite imagery, contacting local partners, trying to get local know-how and establish connections to put it into place to make sure we can include that into this reconnaissance trip to make it as efficient as possible.
These voyages will provide the most enhanced experience, starting in Reykjavik, flying on a direct flight to Narsarsuaq, and then being immediately immersed in South Greenland and being able to see so much of this destination in only 1 week will be a great way to travel here. What's special about South Greenland is that it doesn't reveal itself in the beginning. You need to go further. We've walked in the footsteps of our future travelers and looked at this experience through their eyes. And we've asked ourselves time and time again, and our local partners, how can we make this better? How can we optimize this experience? What lies around the next corner, around the next fjord? Traveling to South Greenland with Quark Expeditions will allow people to experience this destination in the best way possible. Polar expeditions are all about teamwork, about people coming together, working together, and building on their strength. At Quark Expeditions, we bring people from all over the world together to lead travelers into the wildest places. And that includes people from local communities. That includes Inuit guides who've grown up on the land.
Our family lives here. We grew up here. It's our home that we are showing and telling about. And we don't learn these from the books. We don't have it on fun facts that we can give on to guests. It's from our ancestors. The Inuit doesn't write. The Inuit tells stories.
Guests will be able to experience South Greenland in the most meaningful way, in finding themselves on remote peaks, in being overwhelmed by nature, in being warmed by the soul of the people who live here, by their character. It's been a huge pleasure for me to make something like this accessible, to curate experiences that would otherwise be impossible, making the impossible possible. Creating something new isn't easy. It takes teamwork and careful planning to taste, to touch, to hear, to feel the spirit of this wild place. Stories told by those who have lived here. To me, it's important to reimagine what the best expedition experience could be. All of the effort we put into planning these expedition voyages are well worth it, and we can't wait to share these incredible experiences with you.
Wow, that was, I'm gonna get you back on here. And yeah, well done, well done. That's
Gives me chills watching that. I love that.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad you shared it with me, and yeah, I got to watch it before and now, and I will be watching it again. and I'll share the link for it too in the comments after this, so that people can find that on their own. So gosh, this has been so great. Time's gone so fast too.
I know. I think one thing I just wanted to say that the video reminded me of is that you know, travel is complicated. It's difficult for people to access, especially these types of destinations. And I know that's why people come to you to bring the impossible to life, and why you have partners like Quark. So it's so great to be working together to make these type of things accessible.
Well, I love working with you guys too. It's really, it's wonderful to work with a company like you. And when I have the right kind of clients for a trip like this, it's just magic, because it's everybody wins. Yeah. So it's great. I want to ask you a favor. I'm going to spring something on you here.
Okay.
So I have this idea to start a new game at the end of my shows, and it's called Forward or Backward. Are you ready? You want? Are you in? Are you game?
I'm in.
Okay. All right. So if you could go forward or backward in time and travel anywhere, where would you go? Would you go forward or would you go backward, and where would you go?
Yeah, I would definitely go backward. You know, off the top of my head, and what I'd want to do is be one of the first European explorers to get up to the Arctic and interact with the local people. You know, we with the passage of time, I've learned in hindsight that some of our prejudice against their way of life have really had an impact, and have really been misinformed. And so, while there were some great explorers in the early years, like John Ray, for example, from Scotland, Roald Amundsen, who adopted their ways, it's taken us far too long. So, the spirit of community engagement, of learning from the expertise of people who've lived there for thousands of years, if I could go back and set us in my own little way on a trajectory of more integration and more partnership in the beginning, I think we'd be in a completely different place. And so that's what I would choose.
I like that. I like that. Okay. Well, last thing before we sign off here. So Quark has been very generous and offered up an additional $150 shipboard credit, which is good if you book through me before March 31st. And this is good on upcoming voyages for into 2022, definitely. And then in addition to that, because I am a Virtuoso advisor, you already get a $250 per person amenity on board, and there are promotions running right now. So if you have ever thought of wanting to do a polar expedition, I say do it with Quark and call me to get your reservations made. So, yeah. All right. Well,
this has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Alex. I really